Most of us live our lives in and around cities. They're the background hum to our daily routine, this incredibly complex machine that we just take for granted. But have you ever really stopped to think about what a city is? Let's break it down.
And this is the stat that changes everything. For the very first time in human history, more than half of us, 50% plus, live in cities. That tipping point happened back in 2007. Just think about that for a second. We've officially become an urban species. For almost all of our time on this planet, we were rural. This is a massive, massive shift.
So that brings us right to the big question. What is a city? I mean, it seems simple, right? A bunch of tall buildings, lots of people. But as we're about to find out, the real answer is way more complex and honestly, way more interesting.
Okay, Section 1, the blueprint. To really get what a city is all about, we have to start with its basic DNA. We need to figure out the fundamental blueprint that turns just a collection of buildings into a real, living city.
So if you look it up in a textbook, this is basically what you get. A city is a permanent, dense place where people's jobs are mostly not farming. And that's the key ingredient right there. It's that economic shift. It's not about growing food anymore. It's about specializing in literally everything else.
But here's the thing you have to remember. A city doesn't exist in a vacuum. The label city is all relative. It's not just about being big. A city's real importance comes from its relationship to all the smaller towns and villages around it. It's all about the context.
And you can see that context right here. Geographers call this a settlement hierarchy. Think of it like a ladder. You start with a tiny hamlet, just a few houses. Then you move up to a village, then a town. And at the top, you get the city, the place with all the really specialized services, like a major airport or a world-class university. And then at the very, very top, you get a conurbation, which is when cities grow so huge they just merge into one continuous, massive urban sprawl.
So let's move on to Section 2, the skeleton and nerves. If the definition is the city's blueprint, then its physical form, its layout and infrastructure, that's the skeleton and the nervous system that brings it to life. Now, a city's bones, its street layout, usually follow one of two patterns. On one hand, you have the radial plan. Think of old cities like Moscow that grew organically over centuries, with streets spreading out from a central core like ripples in a pond. On the other hand, you have the grid plan. This is the hallmark of cities that were planned from the get-go, like the neat, orderly blocks you see all over the United States.
And what connects that skeleton? Well, that's the city's nervous system, its infrastructure. We're talking about the roads and rails, the water and sewer pipes, the power lines and internet cables, even the parks and squares. Without this nervous system, a city isn't a living thing. It's just a pile of concrete and steel.
All right, Section 3, the lifeblood. A body needs more than just bones and nerves, right? It needs lifeblood. So now let's talk about the people, the money, and the culture that pump through a city and make it what it is.
Which leads to a really important question. Why? Why do we do it? For thousands of years, people have been drawn to cities like moths to a flame. What is this powerful magnetic pull?
This old Roman saying pretty much nails it. Bread and games. The bread is about opportunity, a job, a chance to make a better life. The games? Well, that's everything else. That's the excitement, the culture, the art, the connection. That simple combination is what has made cities irresistible for centuries.
From an economic standpoint, cities have this deep, symbiotic relationship with the countryside around them. I mean, they absolutely need each other. Cities are where you find factories, banks, and art galleries, but they are completely dependent on rural areas for the basics: food, water, resources, and even the people who move there to work.
But here's the flip side. All that energy, all those people packed together, it's a double-edged sword. It creates amazing opportunities for sure, but it also creates deep divisions. The city naturally sorts people, creating incredible wealth often right next door to intense poverty. And what's really fascinating is how that geography of rich and poor looks totally different depending on where you are in the world. So in the US, poverty historically got concentrated in what people call the inner city. But if you go to France, it's pretty much the opposite. Poverty is heavily associated with the suburbs, the banlieues, that surround the wealthy city center.
Okay, on to our last section, the evolving body. Because cities aren't static things, they're not museum pieces. They are living, breathing, evolving organisms. And today they are changing faster than at any point in history.
Let's just try to get some perspective on this. Ancient Rome was the first city to hit 1 million people.
It took another 1,700 years for London to do the same thing. But the acceleration since then has just been mind-blowing, leading us straight to that 2007 moment when we officially became a majority urban planet.
In this chart, wow, this really shows that explosion. We're looking at the rise of the megacity. In 1950, there were only 2 cities on the entire planet with more than 10 million people. By 2020, there were 31. It's a completely new phenomenon, a new scale of human life.
And it probably won't surprise you to hear that when you pack that many people and that much activity into one place, it has a massive environmental footprint. The sheer scale of the modern city is one of the biggest sustainability challenges we have ever faced.
And check this out, because this is a really surprising fact about that footprint. When you measure a city's emissions based on what its people consume, a whopping 85% of its climate impact actually comes from things made somewhere else. It's the food, the gadgets, the clothes. It's all part of the city's invisible global impact.
So this puts the city in this really strange dual role when it comes to climate change. On the one hand, it's a huge part of the problem. It concentrates heat and pollution. But on the other hand, it might just be the key to the solution. That same density makes public transit work. It means we use less land, and it makes it easier to roll out big green solutions.
And that brings us to the final piece of the evolution. In our globalized world, the most important connections for a city like London might not be to the English countryside anymore, but to other cities thousands of miles away, like New York or Shanghai.
This has created a new kind of city, the global city. These are the command and control centers for the global economy. And their power isn't just about how many people live there, it's about their central role in world trade, finance, and innovation. They've formed a network that kind of floats above national borders.
Which leaves us with one last big question to think about. For thousands of years, the city has been the engine of progress, culture, and wealth. But as our cities grow to a scale we've never seen before, facing huge environmental and social challenges, you have to wonder, is the city humanity's greatest invention, or is it our final trap?